So let's talk about anchoring. Anchoring is one of the most simplest and yet powerful techniques that NLP has. If you think about a boat, and if it's just floating in the sea and there's no anchor, it's just going to float away and it's going to go somewhere else. However, if we throw an anchor, it can actually stand still. If the anchor is strong and heavy, then the boat is going to stay there. So in much the same way, when you have experiences, the higher the emotions, the stronger the anchor. But I've got good news for you. We can shift anchors. We can create anchors. So how is an anchor created? There's two things that happen. There's an event, and then there's an emotion. Now, depending on the meaning that we have given an event, it will determine the emotion. So if you think of a bell curve, when the event starts, the emotion starts, it reaches a peak, and in that moment of the peak, something happens, and then the emotion goes down again. So at that point, this is where the event and the emotion couple together. So when that event gets experienced again, that same emotion will come up. So if you want to create a confidence or a happy or a calm kind of anchor, you can use different types of parts in your body. For instance, you can just squeeze, or you can squeeze your arm. So you want to do something that is subtle, something that you can do privately in public, something that will be easy for you to remember and then to do. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to elevate, to raise our emotions for what we want. So let's just assume that you want a feeling of calm. You start to think of a time, perhaps you were on a beach or somewhere out in nature, and you felt so calm. So what you do is you feel it, you think about it, you feel that emotion, and when you're really in that spot, in that moment, you fire off your anchor, and then you let go. And then you think about that again, and you really take in with all your senses the memory of being in that moment where you felt calm, and you fire off the anchor, and you fire off the anchor. And you do it over and over and over again, so that every time that you do this, you straight away start to remember that calm. So the next thing that you do is you test your anchor throughout that day. It doesn't mean that you have to wait for a stressful time, but you can just, whenever, just fire off that anchor and just notice when you do this, your sign that you start to feel that calm. I've had clients use it, for instance, when they are in bad traffic and they're like, and then they just relax. Or perhaps they are going for a meeting with managers and they're feeling a bit stressed, and then they just relax.